everybody. Welcome to the November Patreon exclusive open forum. Although this is not just exclusive to Patreon, it will be saw in the larger YouTube universe. The people who sent in the questions this time are from our Patreon page, and we're going to be getting back to the open forum. But as all of you guys have known, this has been a crazy, crazy month for my son, Jeremy, who's been in the hospital. And it's just been a really, really tough time all the way around with work. We've had to reschedule 2 weeks worth of sessions and possibly more, depending on what goes on at the hospital, etc. So right now, I'm just getting everything ready for this. And I wanted to share with you guys a little bit too about what's exactly going on with my son. I know so many of you have sent prayers and love. What happened is we got him back from his mother on a Saturday. And within 2 hours, we had to take him over to the hospital because his swallowing was so bad. Like when we tried to give him his medicine and his food for the night, he wasn't drinking very well. He was spitting everything out. He was gagging, and there was this really bad, thick saliva, which is very not normal for him. After we saw that, we noticed that he started becoming very fuzzy. His awareness levels had dropped down almost all the way out. Normally, he reaches for a toy because he can't see, he can't talk, he can't communicate. But when he grabs his toy with his left hand, he'll grab it and then shake it around his head or his ear to get it to make noise or just to play with it. When he did, he grabbed the toy and let go and kept searching. And he kept putting his arm around in a circle. His eyes were so fuzzy. We really knew something was wrong at that point. So we took him into the emergency room. They checked him. They couldn't get any blood because he had been pretty dehydrated. And then they ended up taking him over to the big hospital in Kalamazoo. So he's been there for 12 days. And what they found out was that his liver was not breaking down the ammonia in his body. So he had elevated blood ammonia levels, and the prescription medication that he was on for one of his seizures that he had just started back in April or May was causing that ammonia levels to go up. So it was real bad. He was incoherent. There was a lot of issues there. And for one reason or another, he gets there. He's still not able to swallow, so they had to give him a feeding tube. Basically, his feeding tube is a tube that's about that long, about the size of my torso. And they have to put it in his nose, back through his throat, all the way into his stomach. And it drips this liquid food, which is similar to one of the supplements that he takes for his diet called Boost or Ensure, which a lot of people know. People who have problems with weight or people who are older usually have to drink a lot of that. So this is very similar to that, and they've been feeding him that through a tube continuously throughout the entire time he's been there. But it was real hard. Speech therapy came. They gave him a swallow test, saw that when he was drinking liquids or eating food, it was going into his lungs and aspirating, which gave him pneumonia, which is very typical with cerebral palsy children. But with him, it's not ever been nearly a problem. Like if he did get pneumonia a little bit, he'd go to the doctor. Normally, he only would aspirate food when he was sick or when he was having seizures or when he had the flu or something like that. This time he was doing it because of the ammonia levels and because he couldn't quite eat so well. So through that, it's been 2 weeks. This Saturday is his mom's time with him. So she offered to take him for today and to see about her taking him on a longer basis. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We're hoping that we're able to get back to work real soon. But for me, my focus is getting him able to eat, getting him back on his foods and ready to kind of join in by doing that in its own self so he can eat without assistance. The other option, right now his ammonia levels are down. They took him completely off that medicine, which was good, but he's still not able to pass the swallow test, at least as of last week. They're going to retry one either tomorrow or in a couple days when he feels better. When they do, if he fails that test, what they're probably wanting to do is create a feeding tube, which is cutting a hole into his stomach, putting a medical tube through there, and then putting nutrients into his belly that way, and then practicing with speech therapists until he's strong enough to swallow on his own. That is not ideal. That's prone to infection. Also, Jeremy, one of his greatest pleasures in life is eating. He can't do a lot. He can't talk. He can't walk. So the few things in life that give him great pleasure is eating, music, and communication, relationships with us, his parents, going to school with his friends, and the people who do therapy for him there. So all of these things out of his life, he gets so little pleasure as it is. To take that one thing away would be really bad. And I'm going to fight for him to keep that going as long as we can until I know that he's up to where he should be. And if he can't swallow by then that's what it is. But we're really hoping to get everybody in prayers and sending out love. It's been very difficult for all of us. So any love that you guys send to Jeremy especially, and then myself and Kalina who've been down there a lot, every minute taking care of them. Besides the time, a couple times Kalina had to feed the cat, or when we'd run down the street, to do laundry, drop off somebody who had come to visit, couldn't get a bus, some of those things. Either way, he's always had one of us with him at all times there for 2 weeks, and it's been really a rough road. So his family, his mom, her family, they're all going through a lot of emotional stress too right now. So all that love is appreciated, and thank you guys. Another thing I wanted to talk about, this month has been an extraordinarily difficult month. It's been very intense, which emotionally makes me wear and tear. And I've noticed the last couple channelings that I've released that I've done this month, to the untrained eye, people are like, wow, that's good channeling. But I can see in myself that when Aridif comes in a channeled state and he skips or looks for a word, that's because my energy is off. And a lot of people said, hey, I've noticed Aridif's kind of slow. And it's not Aridif that's slow. It's just his ability to connect to the communication through me when I'm tired or drained or emotionally going through problems. But a lot of people ask, can that affect the channeling? Well, it can. But with content as it is, I've noticed that it hasn't affected the actual information. That's why I still released it. If I ever, because I connect to Treb and Aridif without going into that channel state. I can listen to them consciously. I can speak to them when I'm not in a channeled state. Like right now, if I close my eyes and just relax, I can hear Treb or Aridif. So I know that the communication that came through was good information, clarity. So I put it out. If at any reason through this, if there's any lack of clarity or something, I'll definitely let you guys know that too. And yeah. Kalina?
I wanted to say, you want to liken it to like if you have an internet speed that suddenly drops, say you're watching a movie and it might skip around, you're still going to get the information, but it's just a little bit, more like, just the video stopped, or it's skipping, or it's slowing down, or it's, pixelating, or whatever it's doing.
Absolutely. Like that's that. A perfect example. And I try to be honest about that because a lot of channelers that I've seen communicate publicly are not always that upfront about when they're having bad days or not bad days on channeling. This last month has been intense. So,
and last month too.
Right, last month too. So the last thing we did here on Patreon and the channeling that I just released 3 days ago for you guys, those are both channelings that were done under times of stress, and they were a little slow. And tonight, Aridif might be a little slow too. Even though I neutralize my energy, I still have to have my overall energy very in a good mood or neutral for most of the day before it comes through like lightning bolts. But I've been feeling okay. Right before we got on camera, it was a little stressful. But for the most of the day, this has been a day that we've been able to relax a little bit. Even though Jeremy's going through seizures, having issues, we got
to sleep in a bed for the first time in 2 weeks.
Right, and that itself, having the cat with us, having that was good. Going back to the hospital was a little rough, and then coming back here, all those things that we've had to do on and off has been difficult. As soon as we're done here, we're going back to the hospital too, so I want to jump in as quick as we can. Kalina's got your guys' question. I love you guys with all my heart. I am going to neutralize 5 to 7 minutes, and then we are jumping into your guys' questions. We love you. The chat on YouTube is open. Kalina's there to see it. But
Love
please
you
make
guys.
sure to send your questions through the link that Kalina put in the chat already. We love you guys. If you're at Patreon, you have the link to send the questions to also. We'll see you in 5 to 7 minutes. Love ya. All right, everybody, all right. I fixed the lighting on there too, I hope, at least. Looks a little better. All right. So we're going to get started. Your guys' question. We're going to run for a little over an hour. We're going to try to get about an hour 15. We were going to do an hour 30, but an issue came up right before we got ready to jump online. That's what pushed us out even further. So I'm going to take a drink from my hillbilly jug, and we'll go ahead and jump in, right? And I can say that because I'm from Michigan, and I have been a hillbilly almost my whole life because I live in that small.
Hills here. See, I grew up in North Carolina where they actually have hills and
Yeah,
mountains.
she was a hillbilly. I'm a dirt billy. Yeah, flat belly. Nice.
But I was gonna say, we were like, I'm gonna drink out of my hillbilly jug. I was like, well, somewhere there's an angry, thirsty hillbilly.
Yeah, because I must have stole it from. All right, guys, we're gonna jump in. I'm gonna bring Diffy Doo in first. So whatever questions you got for Diff first too, let him have those first. I love you guys. Thank you guys for your love, your support. It means the world to both Kalina and myself, more than you guys could ever know. It just does. And I don't want to get emotional because I'm neutralized, but thank you guys for all your love. I love you guys. And genuinely, you guys and your love and support gets us through a lot of time when we're having difficulty. A lot of you who are on Patreon, some of you follow us on Facebook, some don't. I suggest that all of you guys should, if not any more than just sending us a friend request on our personal, even without the pages, because that's where we share most of our real life. Right there, you'll be able to kind of communicate with us and comment and see what we're up to all the time. I love you guys with all my heart. I'm going to take one more drink of water and then we'll go jump in before I keep talking forever. I love you, baby. Thank you,
I love
too.
You too, baby. I'm having a blast in the chat room, too.
Good.
You guys are so awesome.
They are.
If you guys hear me typing, by the way, and it's too, like, because it's kind of near the microphone, just let me know. I don't think you want to hear me typing in the background.
Greetings to all, this is Aridif, Z-R-I-D-I-F, and this is it spelled. We understand you have many queries for this evening, but before diving in to those queries, there are three things in which we must express. First, above and beyond all things, express within this day, to know, to feel, and perceive that you are loved. And our perspective is always of the utmost importance. Secondly, greetings, Kalina.
Greetings, Aridif. You are loved.
Yes, you are loved, and also we love you. It is our greatest pleasure. Third and foremost, it is our greatest pleasure to co-create with each and every one of you individually and all of you collectively within this evening, within all moments, next and previous moments involved. The co-created collective consciousness is here to express its own desires through manifestation qualities of occurrences in your personal lives and in your collective ones. We will take your queries at your leisure.
Thank you so much, Narada.
Yes.
I'm actually going to take the first one. As some of you guys might know, and as we spoke earlier about Jeremy being in the hospital and everything. But for those of you that don't know, oftentimes Jeremy's higher self does not communicate a whole lot of information because that's part of, I guess, the soul agreement, so to speak. But given the situations, Aridif, is there anything at all that Jeremy's higher self wants to communicate with Rob, myself, or the audience, anything at all? And is there anything that we can do to help? I know that's really two questions and that's kind of cheating, but I want to break the rules a little bit. Is there anything at all that his higher self can share with us tonight?
Yes, we understand. Yes, there is a construct that is shared, but this construct has already been shared. It is the construct of looking into the future at each moment, looking at the moment as they are, instead of working within a construct of looking backwards at the past or looking too far ahead of your own energy. Staying in that now moment is essential, not only for your individual and collective communication with him, but also within each moment that you spend with one another about the conversations that take place about the overall condition, health, and way to treat in a forward way.
Right.
Looking at the past and co-creating over what has been done, who speaks to whom, what has occurred between other individuals. All of this, although it is important to your own mind, is not a necessity of gaining access to the information or to the conscious construct of Jeremy as an entity himself. So speaking with one another in the moment, and more than any one thing, just sharing your own sense of love will help the healing process exponentially. The healing process within his own self has been triggered from the calmness, serenity, and also the love that is shown directly. The continuation of that process, no matter how difficult it can be, is essential for that energy of co-creation.
Okay. Thank you, Aridif.
Yes, of course.
Ooh, okay. So our first question for the evening comes from the great and lovely Vashta. And Vashta says, can Aridif tell us about the Naga people, known as the snake people from the ancient Hindu texts? What is the difference between them and reptilians as we know them?
Yes, first of all, what most humans call Naga are an amalgamation of three different races. The first being what most humans perceive or call the energies of the earth-based reptilian consciousness. Those beings are what most of you would perceive as alpha draconian hybrids. These are the ancient reptilian beings who came to Earth long before the human incarnation cycle started, and started working with those entities that were called dinosaurs or dinoids. They created hybridization of their own genetics with these beings, splicing the dinosaur genes, creating the Earth reptilian race. These beings were incarnated before human consciousness, but within the same overall incarnation cycle, if you will. Although they are shortened incarnation cycles that can be seen separately, both of these energies run in a very similar timeline, as most of you are aware. Before the dinosaurs disappeared in the way that your own history is perceived, these entities did co-create with human consciousnesses, humans that were in their very first iteration of natural second density energy, going into the third density energy. Before going fully into the third density, that is when the Anunnaki took their own genes to manipulate with human consciousness. Those entities that are perceived as the Earth reptilians are one of the energies that some humans call Nagas. Secondly, the energies of the Alpha Draconian beings themselves are often referred to as Nagas, although they are not seen or co-created with nearly as much or as deeply as those that you perceive as Earth reptilians are. They have been felt in presence, seen within the third eye, and co-created with telepathically from some human constructs. The third race is one that most of you would perceive as the Jinn, and although they are not a race onto their own, these entities are shape-shifting beings, and they are reptilian consciousness. These entities are often in their own shapes, and when they are seen in their own shapes, they are perceived as reptilianish beings. They are shape-shifting from a natural form of their own biology or their own biological construction. There are many forms of shape-shifting, but none work within the similarity of constructs that are called jinns. Now, jinns are also what you would call a very blanketed term that describes multiple different races, but the majority of those who saw the jinn in natural form and perceived them as reptilianish entities, that was a race of reptilians that co-created with Earth. These entities also were within the co-creative sphere with the ancient reptilian consciousness. So all three of these, for majority's sake, were the ones that were called Nagas. In the time period that you would call the Indian extraterrestrial war, many of the races of Earth reptilians hid. They did not become involved quite directly, although some did individually. In large collective version of these entities did not come to co-create that experience, but the entities that were called jinns did. These entities, working with other extraterrestrial races, fought many extraterrestrials who came into the Earth co-created collective consciousness. Now, understanding that in the Indian war times, and we will expand upon this further at a later period, were co-creating from their own desires to shift the genetic changes that took place in the Earth co-created collective consciousness. When the Anunnaki changed the human DNA, multiple other races went to change other aspects to counterbalance or to add on to what the Anunnaki have already done with Earth collective consciousness. The reptilian beings that were known as the jinns, that were seen more so in this co-created war, were those that were on the side of extraterrestrials who were coming to inhabit Earth, being fought against by those who had already inhabited Earth, that were working side by side with humans, that were teaching the human collective consciousness. Those entities are mostly what you will see in your own scripts or texts as Naga. Now, again, there are multiple other races that can be included within the Naga co-created collective consciousness, or the blanketized term of Nagas. But for the most part, in that specific time period, these were the beings who were looked at as Naga.
That's always been very fascinating to me, and I've seen a lot of the artistic interpretations of Nagas, and oftentimes they are really like snake people in the sense that they don't have legs. Is this just an artistic rendition based off of what someone's imagined, or is there a race or the jinn that really had the no legs? Can you maybe talk a little bit about the different races real quick?
Yes, first of all, the majority of those entities that were depicted as having no legs and snakes were not in fact entities at all. What they were energetic forms of weapons that the human population did not understand. They were elongated, they were very bright, they would have points of different colors that would appear to be eyes at the head of the weapons. Some of these were propulsionary weapons. Some of these were what most people would call plasma weapons. Others were interpretations of weapons in the best way that the artistic rendering could understand. So many times in the Hindu text, when spoken of snake beings with no legs, what the humans were actually seeing was forms of these weapons that had light or energy particles. Some of them took shape in very straightforward, looking as if it were a stick. Others with a form of electromagnetic energy mixed with plasma, or even mixed with light itself, would take on free-flowing forms. Let us, for example, use a weapon that most of you are aware of that is called a whip. A whip is something that, when snapped upon within your arm, can wave freely about. You can focus the energy in one direction, but when the whip comes towards that direction, it flows, much as a snake would on the ground. Many of these energy weapons also took formats that were very similar to these. In fact, when you look at your Star Wars constructs, there were weapons in the Star Wars universe that were used that were called lightsaber whips. If you look at these constructs, it will give you a similar idea of some of the energetic patterns that were seen with human eyes that were believed to be snake with no legs. Other entities that were jinn did appear to humans as snakes because of the snakes being reptilian consciousness, because of the Anunnakian problems that humans had dealing with the Anunnaki, and the fears that were installed within the traumatic portions of DNA within humans. Many of these entities who could shapeshift or project third eye versions of energy into those beings' mind often projected the snake. What it symbolized could terrify a human, or at least manipulate the human into doing or thinking something that the entity desired to show that being.
Wow, thank you so much, Aridif.
Yes, of course.
That is just so fascinating, and I know Vashta and I could totally pound you with questions all night, but we'll go on to the next question.
We understand.
Thank you, that's amazing. All right, so our next question comes from Melissa, and Melissa says, when animals incarnate, do they have guides, higher self, or an oversoul to assist them in choosing the life with the highest probability for experience and growth?
Yes, but it is not done the same fashion as human consciousness. Each animal being or second density being, your perspective, has the same construct as a human being does. It has a higher fractalized consciousness and a lower fractalized consciousness. The higher fractalized consciousness is a great percentage of the overall entity itself. When rejoining that higher fractalized consciousness after a physical death occurs, these entities are instilled with higher versions of understanding. But the entities themselves, the theme of a second density being is to play within their instinctual self. So yes, they are able to understand more. Yes, they are able to access higher forms and perspectives of information. But most of the second density beings are already highly psychic or in tune with the energy of the Earth collective around them. When they feel the energy of going into their experience of growing in the afterlife, it is mostly instinctual, while the human form takes intellectual, emotional, and mental energies to focus their own constructs of what the next incarnation will be. While the animal entities use instinct, the human consciousness uses intuition. Both of them are valid forms of growth and valid forms of choosing their next path, but it is experienced in a much different way.
Thank you.
Yes, and we also wish to add that the guides or guidance system of these beings is also very similar. Some constructs of second density being animals can have other guides that are also animals. These entities work with them not in the same way that most humans do, but in very similar ways energetically. They work with the chakra systems to work through themes or progression of their own experiences in their life, and do so from a non-physical standpoint. Once leaving their physical body, they do rejoin. Often, the entities that are second density beings who are close with human beings, such as your house cats or dogs, these entities will look for human forms of guides after physical incarnation. So once leaving their physical body, entering the between lives, they will often lean onward to another human being so that they are able to relate to their own construct of what their physical life carried: friendship with the human, co-creation with the human. Now that these beings are going from second density to third, just as all of you are from third to fourth, this exchange time is even that much more important for them. Their co-created mechanism and their desire to learn from one another is vitally important. And when going into the human experience, they can feel that level of third density that you are now leaving behind and start learning how to integrate from that experience itself, just as all of the animals that work with humans in your physical reality do, learning, experiencing, connecting past the version of that experience of instinct into the intuitive places of their own energy constructs.
That's beautiful. We've been seeing that a lot in our cat Chini too. Her 3D construct already setting in.
Yes, of course.
I'd say a lot more gracefully than Rob and I with integrating our 5D selves.
Yes, of course.
All right, so our next question, this is amazing because the question before had to do with the Nagas and snake people. And before I read this, I want to throw out to you that I was so tempted to ask about Lord Shiva and Vishnu, who also have, like Shiva has snakes on him, and Vishnu also has snakes that that is basically a bigger counterpart of himself. But anyway, and Krishna being a part of Vishnu. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read it, and you'll see what I mean. But anyway, Randy says, I've been listening to Hindu music during meditation, and there seems to be a connection between this music and my ET guides. Can you explain the connection between the Hindu deities and extraterrestrials? Are some or all of the Hindu gods actually ETs? I'm especially interested in Shiva, Vishnu, Krishna, and Ganesh.
Yes, first of all, when you are looking at those four entities specifically, they all were extraterrestrial beings in their own co-created construct. Now, Vishnu was one that was a bit different from the others. Vishnu was a representation of the higher fractalized consciousness, the lower fractalized consciousness, and the oversoul of the construct and entities. The entities that were co-creating with the human beings at that time period were very open about their own understanding of higher self and of the oversoul. In fact, teaching many of the humans the construct and the evolution of consciousness. So when working with the other entities, Vishnu and Krishna were co-creating as counterparts of one another, co-creating from a place of energy where co-creation was expected between the two and was even given great, perhaps you would say it, as looked up to and rewarded by many of the other beings. All of the extraterrestrials that show their own capacity of expressing their own conscious construct and co-creating with other extraterrestrials and humans with their telepathy and with their own, perhaps as you would see it, higher versions of telepathy, such as telekinesis, such as instant manifestation, etc. These beings were very deeply perceived as gods or entities that were from heaven versions. Now, we understand the heavens word is much different when you go from religion to religion, but the version that most of the beings that writ the constructs of the ancient Hindu texts realized that these entities were not from an earthly realm, therefore gave you the information needed, while those that look through the Jewish religion, Christianity, Muslimism, it is in a much less obvious formatting. That version of co-creation is still one version from another. These human beings were looking upon the extraterrestrials, deciphering their own energy from the perspective and limited view that they were able to in that moment. The human consciousness was not nearly as evolved and in many ways did not understand technological constructs. This gave them the version to speak as if these beings were gods with special powers from other universes, other planes of existence, when although most of them were multidimensional, manifesting into a third density figure or an avatar of their own physical construct, most humans perceive this in a much different way than what was expressed. When you look at the music itself, the guides that you work with, many of them either co-created with Earth Collective Consciousness during those times or co-created from another area of vibration that is very similar. The music that is utilized in the Hindu religion was taken as closely as possible from the music that was listened to by those that you perceive as extraterrestrials in those moments. Some of these entities created sound vibrations from their own voice to activate the higher portions of consciousness in their own avatar, or to turn on or activate technology in their own conscious constructs of co-creation. Understanding that sound vibration itself is utilized to open up those versions of technology in many different technological races around the entire galactic collective consciousness. This will give you an understanding more so of how most of the entities you perceive as extraterrestrials and their technology with the human co-created collective were created and co-created with humans, sound, vibration, chanting, etc.
Wow, that is amazing. Oh my gosh. These are
Yes.
some great questions, guys. I'm really enjoying this. Gosh. Okay. So our next question. Go back. Sorry. Comes from Brennan. And Brennan says, can you share an experience I have had in a previous Earth incarnation that you feel is relevant to the themes I am currently exploring in this life? Thank you.
Yes, one moment. There are three to choose from. We are looking at the level of resonance in this moment. Yes, now you are aware of some of your previous incarnations, but one that you are not aware of that has a relevance to this specific incarnation is one that is placed within 200 AD region. This is in the area that you now call Syria. This incarnation was one in where you were a very normal person for that time period in that area. There were parts of your incarnation where you were nomadic, others where you would settle in villages that were already established, until approximately the age of 22, when you established your own village. This place was a place in where you stayed in your nomadic journeys that called to you very deeply on the soul level. You stayed there one evening as you were going through your journey, and when you went to your sleep state, you had a very powerful vision. This vision was one of many gods coming directly to you and speaking to you. These entities expressed you a multitude of different energies, teaching you about your own conscious construct, teaching you about your consciousness, and also teaching you about your third eye. The very first time you saw this as possible coincidence, a being throughout your entire experience as a being who wished to co-create a version of your own energy, and the heat, hunger, and thirst that you had went through could have possibly tilted your experience to feel such a grand experience for yourself to tune yourself into. But the second evening, after being well rested, well hydrated, and well fed, you would open up yourself to even higher experience. Your dream state was very similar, but when you awoke, there was a being standing physically in front of you. In that moment, you would then desire to establish a new settlement in that area. The first day you were there, you did not see water. You had brought water from a previous area that you had stayed. The second evening, again, you did not see water, yet somehow the containers of water were filled to the brim after waking up. This continued for 7 different evenings until the 8th morning you woke up and there was a permanent water structure in front of you. At first this started off as a small pond, then a larger pond, then a flowing river. This energy compelled you not only to stay there, but to go out and find other beings to come into that area. You found several dozen other nomadic entities. You brought them to that area. All of you understood and knew how miraculous this energy was. Many were very skeptical of your claims of having gods visit you, bringing you water each night, creating a pond, a lake, and river for you. Approximately 3 months after all of these entities stayed with you, there were more and more coming in each day. That evening, in the area of a full moon construct, or in a cycle of a full moon, the energy of co-creations was about. All the entities there saw the light in the sky. They saw the being come down and speak directly to all of you. Although many of these entities could not hear the direct words that were coming from this entity's mind into your own mind, many did. After that, you all began to practice prayer, quietness, meditation. Eventually, several months later, this entity came back and all of you were able to hear exactly what it had to say. At this point, you were no longer looking for other people to join your community, but word of mouth had gotten spread quite deeply. Approximately 3 1/3 years after staying in this place, communicating with these beings at least once every 3 or 4 month period times, you had several hundred beings. You had created a city around this water. This creation was something that was extremely important. But after many more entities came in, they started treating you as if you were a god. You were the one who had the vision. You were the one who spoke initially with this being. After praising you, you continuously expressed, I am not the bringer of information. It is from the entity that comes from the heavens. But eventually, after many people brought gold to you, specialty items of wine, specialty items of women for your sexual pleasure, it began building to your ego. Once you became out of control when another being did not do as you told them to, and you murdered them. At this period, the entities that were visiting you no longer came to you. The water dried up, and all of the beings eventually left this area. You were so saddened after seeing what your actions caused, you reverted into being a hermetized nomad, one who refused to communicate. One person approximately in your 37th birthday region came across you, and you not speaking to them was seen as an insult, and they killed you in that moment. That lifetime was one that was very difficult for you, but taught you a great deal about communicating with yourself, with your higher self, with beings that are higher dimensional, but also keeping your own understanding of who you truly are within alignment with what you are and who you are in that moment. We thank you.
Thank you so much, Aridif.
Yes.
Right. And also thank you everybody for your questions that I've read so far. Okay. So our next question comes from Joseph. And Joseph says, could you please give us a sound or sequence of sounds that best vibrate and harmonize the chakras?
Yes, this is different for each human consciousness. This is why you are working with thousands of teachings from other beings saying that the R sound is vibration to only the second chakra, or the Om. In that construct can be for one chakra or the next. But, pardon us, this is an individual endeavor, because each and every one of your chakra, both individually and as an entire chakra system, are different from one person to the next. With your own personal energy, working with the Onorama sound is most important, and that is approximately spelled as your English equivalent to A-N-N-A, R-A-N-A, Onorama. This energy is important to your own energy. Utilizing it by breaking the word up into several smaller parts, or utilizing it over and over, can help your chakra system flow. But if utilizing this for several months, your chakras will be in freer flowing condition. Then the sound vibrations will change yet again. This can be from constructs that are Omara to Ina Tarina, and all sounds between. Customizing the vocal constructs that will match your own energy can be most simply done by going through some of the most base sounds, utilizing what your vowel sounds are: I, O, I, O, E. All of those sounds, utilizing them, playing with each and every one of them, shifting vibration of the tune upwards and downwards, the harmony of how long you hold one of those letters and play with them, will be finding the vibrational key patterns yourself. And when doing so, each time you find that one of your chakras vibrates strongly with the sound, hold that sound. Remember the sound. Play with the pitches of that sound. And once you find the highest vibration per chakra, you can place 7 to 12 syllable energies that will represent your own energetic chakra entirety of the system. Now, when you are looking at your own energy, it can be done in 1 symbol, 2 symbols, or 3 syllables. By doing each and every one of the sounds individually, you will find how it interacts with one another. But after finding the individual, running the words together and co-creating patterns from your intuition and sound vibration, each and every one of you can find that perfect unlocking mastery. Trusting your higher self is essential, but also taking the time and energy with the efforts of playing with sound vibrations in the first place is even more so essential.
Thank you, Aridif.
Yes.
And I've also found, for me, like, I love the sound ah, and I think that's a good indicator, just finding like what feels good and locating your favorites, favorite sounds. I've also noticed that sometimes with a particular moment, like say when there's any kind of energetic shifts or changes, sometimes in that moment it can be a little bit different, correct, Aridif? So it can change throughout time.
Yes, of course, just as each and every one of you understand that when you are in a specific vibrational frequency in one moment, let us say frustration is one of your energies of that moment. Once you are in joy or in happiness as a vibrational frequency, your thoughts about any one given thing are much different. Let us use an example. Most of you, when you are in a positive mood, are able to listen to many varieties of music, but when you are frustrated or angry, there is always one specific sound or vibrational frequency that will drive you crazy listening to. But when you are in that opposite or happy mood, it will not affect you in the same way. That is the difference in vibrational frequency. This occurs both with sound and your own intuition to develop and integrate those sounds to utilize for the opening and frequency vibrational lifting of each chakra and the chakra system in its entirety.
I've also noticed sometimes when we're frustrated, we can listen to stuff, for instance, music that we might not particularly listen to when we're feeling kind of happy-go-lucky, like maybe something more hardcore. It helps to release that so that we clear. And it's not that frustration is a bad energy, it just might not be something you want to feel, unless you want to feel it. But I just wanted to bring that up too. That
yes,
because I noticed that it always moves and changes. So thank you, Arda, for that and for clarifying that. That's beautiful.
Yes, of course, and we resonate highly with what you are saying within that construct.
Yes, it's fun. I like all the sounds we humans have and we get to make. And I know you enjoy it too because you're from a non-speaking race, correct? So
yes, this is correct. Although we are not able to speak in a verbal format, we do not have the biological construct to do so. We are able to produce vibration and sound nonetheless.
yes, like with wind through well, I guess what you would have trees, your type of trees, whatever it is that you guys have on your planet.
Yes, that is one example that we've given previously, but there are multiple ways in which to incorporate that energy, yes.
Yeah. We can get into that a little later too. We definitely
Yes, of course.
dig in more into your life in the near future. For
yes.
now, we're going to move on to Deborah's question for you.
Yes.
And she says, hello, Aridif. Can you please tell me anything about a being that I sense who lives across the river from my home? I perceive this being as a tall black figure with no details, and recently I've been aware that there are perhaps more beings of the same race who are also making themselves known to me. Thank you.
Yes, of course, and greetings also, Deborah. As you are co-creating with that energy, you are picking up on two different energies. This entity is what you would call a higher dimensional being, but it is not an extra-dimensional and extraterrestrial being. It is an earth consciousness that is in a higher dimensional energy. Some beings that most humans call the Feraki, or the fairy, are connecting to your own energy. But the secondary version of energy that you are feeling is a localized, co-created elemental manifestational consciousness, meaning that your river that is there, the water that is an individual first density elemental consciousness, when every singular format of that consciousness co-creates with one another their oversoul or co-created collective consciousness of all of that energy in that local area, can also manifest a persona, a personality, a figure, an entity, a being, in order to co-create experiences with others. The elemental beings were connecting with your own energy much before the Feraki. The entities that are known as the Feraki were co-creating within the wider area, but when perceiving your energy and the elemental energy, it desired a co-creation with the elemental beings and yourself as a co-creative triad of energy. This energy shifts all of the time. Each moment, the energy of that consciousness that is co-created collective water elemental consciousness is not the same being each moment. Each of the water molecules shift inward and outward of the area. Each of the beings that co-create from the Feraki that connect with that energy also perceive its shift Therefore, they co-create a balance with your energy in creating with the water elemental in a way that is both tangible and receivable by yourself and to them. This co-creation is one that is one moment. This co-creation is one that is not only taking place in your awakened state, but also tapping in to certain lineages of your dream state in low and high astral state, or the first and second layer of the dream state consciousness.
1 second, Arda.
Yes, of course.
I was having to text Jeremy's mom real quick, just checking on things.
Yes, of course, we understand.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, our next question comes from Casey, who also has a question. You're very popular tonight, Arda.
Yes, of course.
She says, is there anything of relevance you can share with me about the Anunnaki, like the Inky, Enel, etc., and why they are coming through to me in the work with the crystals? I am unclear whether this is data stored in the crystal I fundamentally work with, and or if there is a personal connection and communication being sent. Thank you.
Yes, of course. And first of all, as you are aware, the Anunnaki energy represents a spectrum of energy, just as human collective consciousness does, both individually and collectively. As you would perceive, there are humans that behave in a manner that is completely selfless, while others work within the selfish versions. The Anunnaki has the same vibrational spectrum that humans do. In fact, when opening the spectrum of energy that you as a human collective have, that first iteration of manipulation occurring within that construct gave you a partial spectrum raise from what your Earth collective previously experienced. Going from that point forward, these entities work within high vibrational forms of light, but also there are those that work in high vibrational forms of separation. When you look at all of the energies between, there is a spectrum that is perceived as 7 in number. There are 3 that go from very neutral points to very benevolent, and from very neutral type 2 style of variety of energy to the very negative concepts. These entities that are working with you are in the more benevolent vibrational spectrum, but those who are masters amongst the Anunnaki's energies, who understood the Anunnaki's complete co-creative mechanism, now from their own perspective, non-physical view, see that they are co-creating from all of the spectrums. They are utilizing crystals within their own perspective so that they are able to focus the spectrum of light and benevolency to those that are in the Earth Co-Creator Collective. In this moment, they see themselves as a father raised to your own self, as an entity who gave humanity their own version of experience and third density lifestyle. That vibrational frequency is within your own auric field, one of the strongest fields of your vibrational pattern. That is why when you yourself go into your telepathy and go into your third eye, these entities are some of the most easily vibrationally connectable energies to all of your co-created experience. Now, let us use Rob for an example. When first connecting to Treb Bor Yit NE, his own reptilian vibration was the strongest within his own field. That allowed him to connect to Treb Bor Yit NE more easily. Then after connecting with Treb Bor Yit NE longer, parts of his Pleaidian energy became much stronger. Now, you understand that there are already Pleaidian energies, Arcturian energies, and even some Syrian energies that are within your own DNA that are strong, that are perceivable. But now this Anunnaki energy, which is partially reptilian and partially Pleiadian, comes into your awareness, comes into your auric field, and that is why it is so much more easily able to be perceived, connected to, and co-created with. When you look at the crystal energy, you are seeing only those Anunnaki beings who create from that light energy, from the benevolency version of the energy. And those that are in the opposite spectrum are not perceived to be a threat to you or negative to you, but they are not co-creating with you because of your own vibrational frequency dictating that it not co-create with you.
Thank you so much, Narada.
Yes, of course.
All right. So I'll move on to the next question from Savita.
Yes.
And she says, oh, by the way, she said, do not forget to convey my love to Treb and Aridif. So
yes.
I wanted to let you guys know that. So her question is, though we understand that we have the power to create anything our heart desires by playing with our beliefs, but why do we struggle many times and feel helpless when it comes to be? Or in other words, though we know the recipe to exercise the creator power within, we fail when it comes to practicality.
Yes, of course. That is because you are in the Earth co-created collective consciousness. That is part of the deal, for lack of better terms. When you join the Earth collective, you say, I am going to a place with great resistance in the high spectrum of possibility. Meaning that you could be the happiest person in the world or the most miserable person in the world, and all of those are possible to each and every one of you. Knowing that you are going into that system, you are creating large filters for yourself. Your vibrational learning that is done from the very moment of birth till several years later, and even many of you still vibrationally learning from others, this is your thickest place of resistance. That is where the majority of you cannot break through upon your belief systems. Belief systems are what? To your own mindset. They are seeing something occur over and over and over again and gaining aspects to the same results. Therefore, when the universe has already proven something to each and every one of you so many times, how can it change? That one question, that one contradictory in the energy of your understanding, the ability to manifest and actually being able to manifest are the strongest places of resistance that most humans experience when going through. What we suggest to each and every one of you, that if you desire a more fresh slate to create upon, you must be willing to change the version of you that you are, meaning that when a person manifests extremely quickly and extremely well, it is because they have taken those parts of their own consciousness that are most resistant and changed everything about them. Most of you say, I am a headstrong person, but I am able to be flexible. If you need to preface the sentence with I am a headstrong person, that entirely means that you are not able to be flexible. It in fact counter indicates that construct. So, going through your own experience, look at the areas and where you are headstrong. Imagine yourself as a person who is easily able to let go of things and not fight, or let go of things and not place resistance. And it can be easier. Some of you are able to do this, others are not. We use Rob's own life as an example. When, before his opening of energy took place, he was an entirely different version of the person that he was in this moment. But many of those who knew him said, he is the same person. He is the same person with better behavior, with wiser choices, with a greater love in his own heart. This means that the fundamental energy of Rob himself had never changed, but the way that he approached everything in his entire life did, because of that one moment he desires change to come in such a high degree, knowing and nothing that he had done up until this point had worked, letting go of all those portions of his identity. The person who is a tough guy, the person who is willing to fight with others easily, the person who must be right in all moments, although in his own mind he still carries a bit of that energy, the majority of that has left his own energy. By doing this, by letting go in a complete manner of the version of himself that he had perceived for so long, he was able to create new thoughts and bring in new energies. All of you must be able to re-identify yourself. First, it is the way you perceive yourself, then the way you perceive life in general. Changing those two things in a complete and utter fashion towards lack of resistance will give you the opportunity to see those larger shifts available. But if you say, I will be the same person but only change one food in my diet, then you are not changing your vibration very much. You are going through the same resistances that you were before, but you are feeding your stomach something different. That is the only change or difference. You must change the majority of the stubbornness within oneself, or the resistance to opening the heart in others. That is the main organism of change within your own entity.
Wow. That's truly amazing. And I was sitting there thinking about Rob's life too, and his life story is such a prime example of that. For you guys who don't know about it, definitely he talks about it a lot. And anybody who's ever interviewed him, you'll get some of that information. It's amazing. So thank you for that.
Yes, of course.
Our next question comes from Jossie, who says, where is the high heart chakra located? And what's some information you can share about the high heart?
Yes, of course. This energy is what you would call a secondary chakra. It is not your first line of chakra energy, or first line each and every one of you know. The 7 that is contained within your body, and the 13 collective energies. Now, looking at your own energy, you'll know that your heart, for many of you, it is in the center of the breast area. For those of you that are males, who can averagely draw a line from the middle of your nipple to one another, and the heart lies between. For those who are women, having different sizes and shapes of breast can be different. But if you go into the top of the breast area and go down approximately 3 fingers at the very top lines of your breast, go into the middle, that is the heart, approximately. Now, going from this, you must first also see where your throat chakra is. For the male energies, it is directly behind your Adam's apple, for lack of better terms. For females, it is approximately partially between the area where your rib cage and collarbones meet, and in between your jaw line, approximately halfway between. Now, the high heart chakra is approximately 40% from the heart towards the throat. So it is not directly between, but slightly below the directly between area. This chakra is a substation, for lack of better terms, for your heart and throat chakra. It is a place where your heart and throat meet. It is the place that, if you were to look at the themes of the heart and the throat chakra, can be deduced that that is approximately the overall theme and the energy that occurs there. But it also carries another special vibration. Many of you perceive this energy as a pink color, which in fact, in our own perspective, it is not quite, but in the color that we would perceive, it is not as important as how you perceive it. The high heart being pink is very important for many of you because of the pink energy dictating a symbol of love, a symbol of the heart energy altogether. Focusing what you're feeling about that chakra is also less important than utilization from our own perspective. Utilizations of this specific high heart chakra is done in an automatic way, just as your other chakras. When you start focusing on your heart and throat chakra together, you are automatically engaging, activating the high heart chakra. One thing that we can say, again, that is a special indicator or a special quality about this chakra that most of the other in-between chakras do not have, is it carries an ample boost of energy for those who have larger hearts, meaning that when you send from your heart chakra to your throat, there can be a building of up to 10% additional energy that is created as a spark from this chakra. That is how it is more special than others. That is how it is different from the rest of the chakra system, especially in the secondary levels of the chakra system. Those of you who feel compassion, those of you who feel empathy and sympathy, not just for those you love, that is the easy part for most humans, but for those that normally you would wish to despise, those who you do not care to get to know, those that are difficult for you to understand. That energy, seeing empathy, sympathy, and appreciation for that being, allows that high heart chakra to open more so. By allowing that energy to open, you can receive additional energy in your higher chakra system. It is very rare for an entity that is human to have a completely open heart and a high heart chakra. But if you are able to do so, you will find that you can utilize that energy, redistributing it into your lower chakras. Just as between the heart and the third chakra, there is a sub-chakra, you can redirect a looping of energy from your high heart in to between your solar plexus and heart chakras. If you are able to do this, your lower chakras can be fed more energy also.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, Arda.
Yes.
And I wanted to point out we have time for maybe 2, 3 if we're lucky, more questions.
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys. I wish we could go longer, but as you know, we have to get ready to go back to the hospital. So, Arda, it is 8:05. So,
yes.
So I'll go ahead and just with that, I'll start with our next question. Our next question comes from Selesh, who says, this is for you again. On Tuesday at 11 p.m., the 21st of November, I suddenly woke up from a deep sleep full of nervousness and uneasy about something that had occurred with an uncertain outcome. This is probably the first time that I've ever woken up with such anxiety. However, the next day I came across an article from one channeler who I have the utmost respect and integrity, stating that quote, the most unbelievable event has happened. We have shifted to a completely different new Earth. The Earth I came from had 217 countries. We now only have 195, end quote. My question is, what is his perspective on my experience and observation?
Yes, first of all, within that construct of the switching of numbers of countries, some of you this has occurred. Some of you are just not very good at geography. Now, when you are shifting Earths, shifting timelines, this is a very personal and individual construct, meaning that when you do enough work within your own emotional construct, you are able to leap to a version of Earth that is extremely different from the one in which you came. This does not occur frequently. We have spoken of the event construct, and we believe that Rob and Kalina have made this available. Looking into that construct will be a very helpful area for those of you who wish to understand more in depth of this construct. But when looking at this specific energy, you did change into an energy that comes into a co-creative mechanism, where at once you perceived more countries, now you perceive less of them. Some of these countries shifting are vibrations of natural patterns upon your Earth, governments that fall, new governments that arise, countries that are merged as one another. But in your own perspective, there were 3 countries in your own co-created collective that you did experience in the version of your Earth that you are not experienced. But even this is not a large extreme shift, as in we were expressing previously, because the 3 countries that had dissipated from one reality to another were countries that you yourself were not aware of. Now, when we express that some of you are bad at geography, this is a construct of us attempting to give humor to all of you, but we are quite serious in the way of some of you not understanding the entire co-created collective version of your geography upon your Earth collective, so this can cause confusion. Within your own personal reality, making this shift is an indication that you yourself vibrationally have shifted a fair amount, not in the way where you are going to go into an Earth where everyone only eats popsicles all of the time. This is an extreme version change. Even a shift where the country that you are living in is a shifted vibration to another name or another environment or society. Those extreme changes are often only occurring to those who agree to go through experiences that are similar to what you call severe mental illness, where everything is always shifting all of the time. Going into an event where the collective consciousness shifts is a possibility, but you yourself going into a vibration where you are joining a collective that has already changed is more likely to occur. That is what you yourself have done. There are handfuls of beings who are going through an experience with you where those same 3 countries that were once there that are not, there are approximately 380 or slightly more humans who went through the same vibrational shift that you do. Many of the other ones who are going through this shift are only taking the words of others, or are not aware of the geography, or have went into another experience where they are just shifting the version of people who they are creating with, who have expressed this construct. But for you, you are feeling and experiencing that shift, but doing so in a way that will not break your own mind in a mental status. Many of you mentally, the way that your consciousness, the way that your psychology is built, if it were to occur going to sleep and waking up in an entirely new world, that would break many of your psychologies. Although many of you desire that vibrational shift in order to prove to yourself, just as Aaron had done in his dream state, that you are growing, that you are shifting, that you are vibrating upon different frequencies, you can do so by using smaller changes, such as the one that you yourself have experienced, the 3 countries being shifted, the energies of all of the other co-created vibrational beings within the hundreds that have shifted with you, and the version of more than just you shifting. That shows you that you yourself have been excited deeply enough about others experiencing shifts with you, that you brought yourself into reality where multiple others also perceive that same shift. And for this, we both thank you and congratulate you for your experience.
Absolutely. And I can feel my Arcturian guys wanting to add something to clarify for people, so there wouldn't be any confusion. We are always shifting all the time, every moment, every millisecond. But when Aridif was talking about the mental status and shifting, we're talking about major shifts. Usually when we're shifting into they're smaller, more nuanced things that make sense, that they're gentle. Most of us take a more gentle path. But then there are people that come in, they'll incarnate, and they have extreme shifts. They're literally going into different realities, different probabilities, and jumping in their extreme. Sometimes they can see multiple at a time. So, and that's different. And that's also different from what we were talking about earlier, For instance, when Rob made a big shift, even though it was quite a leap, it still had enough increments to make sense and have a level of smoothness. So instead of maybe saying if we're kind of going down a hill, or up a hill or down a hill, whatever, he was taking steps or an elevator, if that makes sense. So I wanted to have, that, because I could feel them talking about that, adding to that, because I guess there were some of you that were feeling some confusion, and I thought I would just bring that up too.
Yes, of course. And we are grateful for you and your dear connection to your guides, and that energy of co-creation also highly resonant and expressive to the constructs in which we are sharing in this moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you also.
It's 8:13. Do we have time for one or two more questions?
One last query at your leisure.
Okay. So the next one we have comes from, we got that one already. And we got that one. We had a double one or a triple one.
Yes.
What we have here. Okay. This one comes from Elsa, who says, some years ago, I created a physical problem in my body, acid reflux. This issue causes a lot of pain, and I am warned it could be damaging my body. I'm not sure why I created it, but after using the 10-step process and also your video about childhood trauma, I feel it's related to fear and memory of a serious childhood illness. Yet when I work with the 10-step process, or even just gentle, slow breathing or relaxation, the acid reflux symptoms get much worse and I get exasperated and give up. Am I trying too hard?
Yes, first of all, we understand that as you are going through that experience, the feeling of heightened effects of that illness or that co-creative energy is becoming more intense. And let us explain first why this occurs. You are going into the area of course, safety. And yes, all of your perspective, all of your insight, all of your intuition are spot on with your co-creative mechanism. They are highly resonant to ourselves with what we are also perceiving from your higher self. So, as you are going through that experience, co-creating with levels of fear, what does your physical body and the ego portion of your consciousness do when entering the probability to heal yourself from this area or to find that trauma? It works to protect itself. There is a trauma that is underlying within your childhood that this is stemming from. Your mental attributes, your conscious mindset, the place where your own mind co-creates the energy of finding the answer, is not quite ready for that answer. One moment, we must hydrate Rob's throat. Now, we understand when we say that your conscious mind is not ready for this, there's a part of you that says, that is ridiculous. I know that it is there. I am looking for it. That means that I am ready. But the depths and levels of that energy is something that is jarring for other parts of your growth and experience. So it is a protective mechanism that is placed within yourself from the ego portion. Ego not meaning the negative parts of you, which is a misnomer from many human consciousnesses, but the ego portion that is your own protector of the physical reality around you. The part of you that so deeply embedded into physical reality, it does not allow itself to play with the etherical energies. When you are going through that experience, you will continue to find that energy creating experience of negative energy. So what we express to you in our own suggestion that will help you work with that energy a bit more is go through, pardon us, the 10-step process before entering your sleep. Ask the pertinent questions before you go to sleep. What is the belief system that is causing the emotions? What are the thoughts that I am able to track through those emotions? All of those energies will help show you the direction in where you are able to find more information, but more than this, it will help clear up the energy of resistance around diving into those energies in a more awakened and conscious state. Going through that variety of energy, going deep into whatever forms of trance energy you are able to place yourself in, can all assist your own energy in finding those informations without causing a negative backlash on your mental body and your ego portions of consciousness. We also suggest you to go through your sense of safety through the root chakra by visualizing the grounding technique that we have given out many times. Breathing in white light, pushing the red energy out into the earth, then breathing golden yellow energy from the earth inside of your entire body, concentrating it around the root chakra. But also focus upon your second and third chakra when you are doing this. Release the breath, negativity, of resistance, of any of those emotions that seem incompatible with your growth and expression. We wish to express to all of you, it is a great pleasure to have co-created with each and every one of you, individually and collectively. And Kalina, as always, a great pleasure to have co-created with you.
Yes. And before you go, Aridif,
yes.
This is gonna sound funny. I'm just gonna hear a commercial baking soda. Just kidding. So Elsa, it's interesting. Like I almost never get acid reflux, and right before we got Jeremy back, I woke up with the most terrible, like it was literally the most terrible burning sensation in my stomach, and I just knew innately that it was acidic. And something told me to take a little bit of the baking soda, make sure it's not baking powder, baking soda, and took just a tiny pinch, put it in some water, and literally within 10 minutes, it was gone. Now, I don't know that that's something you want to continuously do, but it gave me immediately relief, and I was able to get back to sleep. And I mean, I don't know how I got the information, but maybe it's because it's very alkaline. So it really helped give me a lot of relief. So maybe you can try that in the meantime while you look for the deeper root. That way you're not suffering. So just thought I'd bring that up because it helped me a lot.
Yes, it is a very great remedy to the physical attributes of your acidity within your stomach reflexing.
Yeah.
Yes, we wish to express to you that we will bid you all adieu for this evening. And also that Treb Bor Yit NE expresses his own desire to send outward his love to all of you.
Yes. And I'm going to give you a hug. Do you?
Yes, of course.
And Treb, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, of course. And we bid you adieu for this evening.
You guys are loved, and you guys are loved. Hey, baby.
Hey.
Waking up.
All right. All right.
We had a really amazing session.
Good. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad everybody had a good session. You look beautiful, baby.
Yeah, so do you. You always look beautiful to me.
As to you.
Yeah.
To me.
Probably to everybody else, too.
We're a pretty hot couple, right?
We're
pretty hot. Two hot individuals.
That's the real reason why we're a little overweight, because if we get skinny, you guys will be just, you won't be able to sleep.
And my dad would say, you got to beat them off with a bat. He used to say it about all my sisters, because when they got older, all the boys were lining up. All my guy friends were trying to date my younger sister, Mary.
Now you've got your niece.
Shout out to Mary. Whoop, whoop. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. All right, guys, we've got to go up to the hospital and get everything set up for us to go there. We'll keep you guys informed. We know that some of you on Patreon have sessions out with us that were during the last 2 weeks. And as soon as we get back home for good, we're going to sit down and reschedule everybody and keep up with our current ones so that we can get all you guys your sessions that you deserve. We love you guys so much and enjoy the recording of this. We're going to take out and edit the parts from like where we came on and told you we'd be back in 10 minutes. I mean,
Yes, you don't have to
we're going to
turn on
edit
the
that
spot.
for YouTube, but until then, this link will be good. We love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.